Hello friends, today we are going to discuss about Protection of Women from Sexual Harassment at Workplace, Act 2013, Part 1. I am Dr. Suresh Bhat, Professor of Psychiatry, working at nuanced, Bangalore. In this video, I'll be discussing about gender sensitivity, defining various terms, gender sensitivity at workplace, what is the difference between gender and sex, legal framework for gender sensitivity, and protecting women from sexual harassment at workplace. Before I start, I would like to quote an important judgment from the Supreme Court. This judgment came in 2021. In this judgment, the Supreme Court said that a woman cannot be herself in the society of the present day, which is an exclusively masculine society, with laws framed by men and with a judicial system that judges feminine conduct from a masculine point of view. This is what the Supreme Court said. I would like to discuss a case, Aparna Bhat versus State of Madhya Pradesh. In this judgment, the Supreme Court quoted that important paragraph. Let's look into the facts of the case. Mr. X entered into the complainant's, that is a woman's house, at 2:30 a.m. in the morning at 20th April 2020, caught her hand and tried to harass her. At the same time, he tried to or attempted to outrage her modesty. A FIR was filed against Mr. X, and the charges framed were under section IPC of 452, 354A, 323, and 506 IPC. Let's look into each one of them. Section 323 IPC, punishment for voluntarily causing hurt. 354A, sexual harassment and punishment for sexual harassment. 452 IPC is trespass, and 506, punishment for criminal intimidation. In this case, the accused approached the High Court for bail, and the bail was granted by the Madhya Pradesh High Court. And it made an important observation which transgressed from the important discussion. Here the High Court said that the bail was granted with the following condition. It said that Mr. X, that is the accused, was asked to go along with his wife to the complainant house and request her to tie a rakhi and promise to protect her for the best of his abilities. And he was also asked to pay her a sum of 11,000 as a customary ritual and also 5,000 to her son in order to purchase clothes and sweets. This was the bail request or the bail condition which was placed on the accused. Imagine, the victim had given a complaint that he has harassed her, and now the judgment came that the accused will go to her house and get the rakhi tied by her. And this was challenged in the Supreme Court by a public spirited individuals. Let's look into this. What did the Supreme Court say? The Supreme Court opined that all High Court should refrain from making certain things. Harmful stereotypes, particularly for women victims and survivors of violent sexual assault. At the same time, it also said judges should not fall into the trap of stereotyping. Like, woman, if she wears certain clothes, she is inviting for trouble, and she is responsible for provoking women. And it also said that gender sensitivity should be displayed at all times by the judges. And also it said that observation in cases of rape and sexual assault, which might trivialize the trauma suffered by the victim and affect their dignity, should be reframed. That means the High Court or the judges should not make such comments which trivializes the assault. Further, The apex court also said that all courts and also the high courts should avoid this stereotypical expression when the judgment is given. It also said that we should avoid certain language, terms when the judgment is written, such as women are physically weak and need protection. Motherhood is the duty and role of every woman. Being alone at night or wearing certain types of clothes makes women responsible for being sexually attacked. These kinds of gender stereotypes, comments about a woman who has suffered from sexual assault or violence, or who has knocked the door of justice when she has been harassed. Further, the apex court also said that we should avoid making certain comments such as women are emotional and often overreact or dramatize events. Further, it also said that lack of evidence of physical harm in a sexual offense case leads to inference of consent by the woman. Such comments should be avoided. Women who drinks and smoke ask for sexual advances or assault. And also we should avoid good women or sexually chaste. These kinds of comments needs to be avoided and written in the judgments. Further, the Supreme Court made an important observation and recommended and mandated that a module on gender sensitization to be included as a part of foundation training for every judge across the country. Further, it also ordered the National Judicial Academy to come up with a curriculum, devise, and train every judges in the country. Further, it also said that all public prosecutors, standing counsels, lawyers, advocates, students, Bar Council of India to devise gender sensitivity training program and progress to be made with regard to uphold the dignity of a woman in our society and also at workplace. This was the phenomenal observation done by the Supreme Court on 18th March 2021. And it also said that it is the responsibility of the judiciary with respect to spreading gender sensitization and being itself sensitive to the honor and dignity of a woman to be raised many folds in the court and also in the judgment. This was an amazing observation made by our Supreme Court judges. And it is true. And we need to keep and uphold the dignity of a woman, not only those who are working, the woman who approaches for justice, and also at the same time, when the judgments are delivered, we need to have gender sensitivity words so that the people who are going to read or the society at large should not be affected by such judgments. Now let's understand what is gender sensitivity at workplace. So gender sensitivity has two terms, gender and sensitivity. Let's look into gender. Gender refers to the social constructed dynamically which characteristics of women, men, girls, boys that are socially constructed, which includes norms, behaviors, and roles associated with being a woman, man, girl, or a boy, as well as relationship with each other. This is the WHO definition. That means it is not just a binary division like boy and a girl. It is a social construct where the man or a woman or a boy or a girl, their behavior, their norms, what is the culture, what is the relationship with each other, that defines gender. Gender varies from society to society and can also change over time. That means approximately 100 years back, what was the role, what was the gender sensitivity, how we treated each gender in the society. Gender sensitivity does not mean only to women or a girl. It is both for men and also the third gender. Gender is hierarchical and produces inequalities and also discrimination that intersect with various social domains, economic domain, inequalities, and religion. Gender stereotypes need to be challenged. Otherwise, we will continue to do discrimination against the gender who are weaker. Of course, when I say weaker, at present context, gender based discrimination intersects with socio cultural, economic, and religious factors such as ethnicity, socioeconomic status, disability, age, geographic culture, location, religion, educational status, gender identity, sexual orientation, among others. That means gender is larger than the sex. Gender based discrimination plays a crucial role with regard to access to education, access to healthcare, right to choose the partner, right to choose a wear and dress, right to reproductive decision making, right to occupational choice, right to safe environment, not only at home, even at the workplace, right to nutritious food. So all these discrimination occurs when there is no gender equality or gender sensitivity. Let's understand what is sensitivity. It is the capacity of an organism to respond appropriately and proactively to the stimulation. That means whenever there is an event, how the organism responds appropriately and proactively to the stimulus. Now, in combination of both gender and sensitivity, how we can define? Gender sensitivity is defined as a process. Let me be very clear. It is a process by which people are made aware of gender stereotypes, recognition of gender roles, identification of privilege and discrimination within the genders, and most importantly, creating gender awareness in the society. Gender sensitivity is not a goal, it is a process, it is a feeling that we are all one and equal. It is not just being aware, it is protecting everyone, providing opportunity to everyone, and right to equality to everyone, right against discrimination. So, gender sensitivity is a larger picture. However, then what is gender responsiveness? Gender responsiveness means identifying and acknowledging the existing differences and inequalities between women and men, and maybe even third gender, and articulates the policies, frameworks, and initiatives which addresses the different needs, aspiration, capacities, and contribution of women, men, and third gender. Here, gender responsiveness means gender sensitivity plus policies. Here, the place where the gender sensitivity should be planned, the policies should be framed, legal framework should be there. That is gender responsiveness. Moving to the other important, gender transformative. What does it mean? Gender transformative means proactive initiatives that challenges existing discriminatory policies and practices and carries out changes for the betterment of quality of life for all. That means gender transformative means gender sensitivity plus gender responsive. So we need to move towards the gender transformative society. But what is the difference between gender versus sex? We look at the two columns, that is gender and sex. Sex is anatomical, it is organ, whereas gender is a socially constructed roles, behaviors, expressions, and identities of a girls, women, boys, men, and gender diverse people. Sex is more of biological, whether it is a chromosome X or Y. It is a physiological. What is the reproductive organs? Uterus, testes. Sex is more of categorical in nature, that is male or female. Gender is a spectrum of being socially constructed roles, responsibilities, behaviors, duties, feeling what I am, how I should be identified, respecting the other gender as a person. That means it's a spectrum. Sex is assigned at birth. As soon as the sperm and ovum get fused, the sex is determined. Whereas gender is a process of growth, the growth of thoughts of a person, feelings, roles, duties, responsibilities, norms, expectation, expression, and socio-cultural economic perspective of not only the individuals, collectively as the society. Sex is unidimensional. Gender is multidimensional. Sex is fixed from tomb to womb. That is, sorry, to womb to tomb. Gender is fluid. Further, sex is very concrete, whereas gender is analytical in nature. It changes from time to time. Further, the society, how it defines the role and responsibilities, how we give equal status to everyone. In simple, in a concrete way, I can say sex is between the legs, gender is between the ears, that is the brain. How you perceive other person, other gender, other human beings, how do we respect them? How do we perceive their roles, responsibilities? How we give status and equal opportunities for everyone. To summarize, sex refers to the biological differences between male, females, including chromosomes, sex organs, and endogenous hormone profiles, whereas gender refers to socially constructed and enacted roles and behavior which occur in a historical and cultural context and vary across society and over time. If you look at the Global Gender Gap Report in 2020, gender gap means if we consider male, female, and third gender, what is the gap? It will take another 100 years to achieve gender equality based on the current rate of progress. That means the male dominated society has suppressed the other genders. Gender equality is when people of all genders have equal rights, responsibilities, and opportunities. That's the best definition I can talk of, which was given by the World Economic Forum in 2020. That means to achieve this equality, we may take 100 years from now. Think about your daughter, think about your female colleagues. They will never be treated equally for next 100 years. Gender equality is required. The reason being, it prevents violence in the society. Not only that, essential for economic prosperity, safer society, educated society, empowered society, and a healthier society. That means, for the reasons of having a developed society, we need to have gender equality. Further, mutual respect and representation is at the heart of gender sensitivity. That means we need to respect and allow representation from all genders. Not only that, we need to promote inclusion and proactive participation. Unfortunately, in various society, the genders are included, but there is no efforts to ask for proactive participation from their side. Gender sensitivity is not a goal, it is a process. Invariably, it is a top down approach. That means the leader should be sensitive about the gender equality, the needs, why the society is underperforming, and the top leaders need to participate in gender equality, gender sensitivity, and need to start the change. What is the change we are looking for? Gender equality looks for policies, laws, and implementing from top to bottom, awareness and workshops, so that every child, every man, woman, and everyone knows about gender sensitivity and equality. Recruitment policies should be providing equal opportunities for all genders, cultural changes to be catalyzed by using this, leadership roles to be given equally among all genders, gender representation in all other possible roles should be considered, infrastructure changes to be done to include all gender. It's not just a boy or a girl thing. It is, we are talking about the world. We are talking about the universe. We are talking about the gender sensitivity. United Nations, in their Million Developmental Goal, when they discussed about this, they called all states to promote gender equality and empowerment of women as effective ways to combat poverty, hunger, disease, and to stimulate development that is truly sustainable. What does it mean? Let's take the example of India. At least 49% of them are women. If we do not give access to health, right to education, right to safe working environment, how will our society will grow? That means unless we educate a woman, we will never educate a family. We need to consider the gender sensitivity and make sure the equal rights and responsibilities are delegated across the society so that we can reach this millennium developmental goal. So we have to see and balance not only the women but also the men. That means gender does not mean only to women, only to men, or to the third gender. In this regard, we will discuss about the legal framework what is there in the workplace. So the legislation which was passed is the Sexual Harassment of Women at Workplace. Prevention, Prohibition, Redressal Act 2013. It is also called as POSH Act 2013. That is Prevention of Sexual Harassment at Workplace 2013. This case was an important event which triggered the formation of Vishaka guidelines. The case is well known and it is called as Vishaka and others versus State of Rajasthan in 1997. The Supreme Court came up with Vishaka guidelines to prevent sexual harassment at workplace. What is this case? This is a case which looks collectively as a society how we treat our woman. This is, as you see in the picture, Banwari Devi, a lady working in Rajasthan, along with her husband, Mohanlal Prajapat. This was the photograph taken by BBC News, Jaipur. Let's look at the facts in this cases. In this case, in 1992, Srimati Banwari Devi, a social worker from Bhatheri village, Rajasthan. Bhatheri is a village approximately 30 to 40 miles from Jaipur. She was working as a Sathini for the state government's women development program. Her job was to go to door, educating about the educating public and the villagers about the family planning, hygiene, dowry, child feticide, child education, and child marriage. She used to discuss about this so that these things can be removed from our society. In 1992, there was an event which shook the nation. She tried to prevent a child marriage in May 1992. This is during the May, there is a festival Akatija, also Ashwini Tritiya, what we call it as. During this time, the child marriages are conducted because it is considered to be auspicious. And Srimati Banwari Devi came to know in her village there was a community which belongs to upper caste wanted to get their child married. The child was just 9 months old, and the 9 months old was getting married to another child. She requested them to stop, but they did not listen to her. So she went ahead and gave a police complaint. The police came to the village. They stopped the marriage for the moment, and the next day the marriage continued. But however, the villagers and the upper caste people were very, very angry with Srimati Banwari Devi. This occurred in May 1992. The whole village outcasted her family, They refused to give milk and other supplies to her. Not only that, on 22nd September 1992, five men belonging to the upper caste, along with the family members of the child which was supposed to get married at that time, where she had given complaint, those family came and assaulted Srimati Banwari Devi and her husband in the evening in agricultural field. The husband was beaten, he became unconscious. These five landlords of the community gang raped her and they left in the evening. In the evening, Srimati Banwari Devi and her husband, along with the local government person, she had to go to the police station. It was in the night around 11 or 12 o'clock in the night. She gives a police complaint. And when a FIR was lodged, look at the police. The police will ask her to remove her clothes so that it can be taken into as an evidence. She did not had any extra clothes, or else the police station did not had anything else. At this moment, Srimati Banwari Devi removed her clothes, took her husband's turban or a peta, what we call it as, and she covered her body, lodged the FIR, and left in the middle of the night. Not only that, the next day morning she goes to primary health center for examination and collecting evidence. The medical officer refuses because he does not know anything about the examination of a woman who is sexually assaulted. And he says, I do not, there is no woman doctor so that she can be examined. She is referred to the Jaipur Medical College. By the time she reached the medical college in Jaipur, the medical college said, there is no request from the police or from the court. Hence, we will not be able to do. And by the time she ran to the court, by the time it was already 4:30 p.m., even the court said, today the working hours is over. Come tomorrow. Here the woman has been assaulted and still the examination is not done. Medical treatment is not given. We are talking about gender equality. And the next day she has to go to the court, get the request, went to the college, examination was done, and treatment was given. By that time, the political parties got involved in this case because it was a fight between upper community and the lower caste. It was not a gender issue at all. Now it has become a political issue. Issue fighting between the religion, between the caste. Unfortunate. Now the system takes the recourse. Unfortunately, in the lower court, Srimati Banwari Devi lost the case. Immediately, there was a local newspaper came up with an important article bringing out the atrocity against this woman. And then the rally was conducted in Jaipur. And this rally was conducted by NGO called as Vishaka. And they even knocked the door of the Supreme Court for justice. Now the Supreme Court took the case because of the sensitivity. Not only that, it became a political issue now. Unfortunate, she lost the case in the lower court. But however, the Supreme Court took the case, telling that it is an issue of a woman working and sexual harassment at workplace. And the PIL was filed by the Vishaka NGO and other women working in the Supreme Court. And they asked for PIL to enforce the fundamental rights of working women under Article 14, that is, right to equality before law. That is the fundamental rights of every citizen of India. Not only that, Article 15, that is prohibition of discrimination on grounds of religion, caste, race, sex, or place of birth. Nothing in this article shall prevent the state from making any special provision for women and children. Further, Article 19, 1G, to practice any profession or to carry out any occupation, trade, business, other thing. Not only that, Article 21, right to life and liberty. Not only that, to live with dignity under the Constitution of India. Under this, the PIL was accepted, and the Vishaka guidelines were laid. But though the Supreme Court took the PIL, but referred the case back to the High Court of Rajasthan, telling that we will not deal the case, but we will take the case as a part of PIL, and did not look the matter with regard to Srimati Banwari Devi. We were concerned about the working woman in the metropolitan place and the urban area. Hence, the Vishaka guidelines came. The Vishaka guideline is a landmark judgment, but we did not do justice at the time with Srimati Banwari Devi. It took almost another 15 years. The assault occurred at 92. She lost the case in the lower court. And then in 2007, still the case was in High Court of Rajasthan. So this is the plight of a woman who is working. But the Vishaka guidelines came into picture. If you look at the prevalence, 1 out of 6 women have experienced sexual harassment or abuse in the past 1 year. That is the current data. I'm talking about harassment is physical here, and also the abuse. That is the prevalence. Let's look at the legal framework. The legal framework starts from the Constitution of India, that is, right to equality under Article 14, under Article 15, prohibition of discrimination based on gender, right to practice any profession under Article 19, right to life, liberty, and to live with dignity under Article 21. There are many other important articles with regard under the Constitution of India, but these are the prime important one. Further, there were other important legislation like Immoral Trafficking Act of 1956, Dowry Prohibition Act 1961, Child Marriage Restraint Act of 1929, Indecent Representation of Women Act of 1986, the Commission of Sati Prevention Act of 1987, Protection of Women and Domestic Violence Act of 2005. Not only that, we had Indian Penal Code and also various Criminal Procedure Code and Civil Procedure Code to protect women. Further, if you look into the Indian Penal Code, protection of women at workplace, only the serious offenses are coded here. Just to give some examples, outraging the modesty of women, Section 354 IPC, kidnap and abduction, that is, the sections are discussed under IPC from 363 to 373, rape, 375 IPC and 376, word, gesture, or act intended to insult the modesty of a woman, Section 509, attempt to rape 511, sexual harassment 354A, assault on woman with intent to disrobe a woman, that is 354B. Section 354A and Section 354B was added post Nirbhaya. As you know, the Nirbhaya case in 2012, such an atrocity occurred against a young girl. Almost she was murdered, but she later died because of the complications of the act which was done by the gruesome men. After that, there was a change, amendment in various laws, both in Indian Penal Code, Criminal Procedure Code, and also the implementation of Protection of Children from Sexual Offences Act, and also the modification in rape law. Further, An important legislation also was introduced because there was a lacuna in the law to protect women at workplace. There were many incidents of crime against women at workplace, but women had to take an adversarial legal course of action, going to the police station, pressing charge against a man who she is supposed to work, and she has to give a complaint against a man to another man, thinking that he will provide justice or he will take the FIR, and again going to the court where the judge is invariably a man. Unfortunate. Hence, an important law came into picture, that is Sexual Harassment of Women at Workplace Prevention, Prohibition and Redressal Act of 2013, also called as Protection of Women from Sexual Harassment, and in simple it is called as POSH Act of 2013. And this act came into force on 9th December 2013. An important legislation. The preamble of this legislation clearly says that to provide protection against sexual harassment of women at workplace and the prevention and redressal of complaints of sexual harassment, with an important spirit to protect the women, prevent harassment, and do a redressal at workplace. To conclude, my dear friends, gender sensitization promotes equality for men, women, and third gender by allowing men and women to view and also to be aware about stereotyping in the society and reasonable adjustment and reasonable accommodation, providing equal rights, responsibilities, and opportunities for every gender. This can be started at home. Parents and teachers are in a position to teach children about gender sensitization through how they conduct in society with the other gender. Gender sensitivity plays a major role in Millennium Developmental Goals, my dear friends. Gender sensitivity is not a goal. It's not an outcome. It is a process of providing equal opportunities for everyone. That is gender equality, not only for men, women, and third gender, for every person. Thank you very much for giving your valuable time. Stay safe.